Hey everyone, Southbound F here on behalf of Cold Storage, reminding you to tune into our show on Saturday at 9 p.m. Mountain Time at twitch.tv/Cold Storage. That's CZEROLDSTORAGE. And join Rodan, Soda Pop, and yours truly for fresh underground electronic music each and every week. You'll hear minimal techno, tech house, drum and bass, dubstep, and a diverse selection of guest DJs from the 801 Underground while partying it up with us in our interactive chat. Again, that's twitch.tv Cold Storage, CZEROLDSTORAGE. See you there. Stay groovy. Keep it locked.
Welcome to Cold Storage.
It's time to learn with the History Boiz. Hey everybody, you are listening to the History Boiz. I am Christopher Whedon, and I'm super bummed out because you know, A&W restaurants.
Usually the KFC or something like that.
The A&W restaurants, and it's kind of like Burger Master. They got the thing, and they got the overhang, right? You know what I'm talking about? Where you
get a burger and a root beer float. Yeah.
Somebody comes out in like roller skates.
Yeah,
Sonic.
So I'm driving there. Forget I have the fucking death ray on the top of my car. It fucking gets knocked the fuck off.
Shit.
You know, I wait around for my burger and my shake, and I drive the fuck off because the cops are showing up because they're like, dude, this guy's a death ray on his car. He fucked up the fucking top there. There's a whole insurance
They're
issue.
looking for you.
I drove the fuck out of there, so my death ray is fucking gone. Now Tyler finally explains to me that he has the button ready now that I have no fucking death ray anymore.
I didn't want to have to tell him. Tyler Armtrout, history boy here. So I didn't want to have to tell him that the death ray, the button's not happening. The button doesn't exist. I just made it up. But I lied to him and told him, oh, it was just, oh no, your death ray's gone. Oh, the button, I just finished it.
You did it to
I'm
make
learning
him
about
stop.
this on the podcast today, and
You're disappointed. You're a little disappointed.
I'm outraged.
I've never made a button in my fucking life.
But I'm exhausted.
You were lying the whole time.
Yeah.
Chris does look like he is just containing rage.
The truth is, I'm more disappointed in myself for believing it.
I am the Vernona writer of this group of Heathers,
Ooh,
Zach
hot.
Meck, also a history boy.
I was at a crush on her, especially when she had short hair, because I'm into that, as
yeah.
you know, if you've seen The Misses.
Susie just got her hair cut.
It looks
She
great.
looks great.
Yep.
Love it.
She
It
looks great.
Great.
Yeah.
She got a mohawk, or?
It's a reverse mohawk, actually.
Like the guy
It's
from
just
The old
Alien
Bozo
Ant
the
Farm.
Clown.
I just, while she was sleeping, I just ran a electric razor through the middle of her hair.
And she's never been happier.
Never been happier. She loves it.
when she woke up, did she look at you and say that she was the fire starter?
She said something about how we were done.
Yeah.
Ah.
I didn't understand
You're like,
that.
no.
We're done with the
I'm
haircut.
I'm done giving you a
I was
haircut.
yeah, that's how I took it, but she hasn't been back since.
We're done. It's because she's parading around that haircut.
No, that's true. Anyway, I am Jerry, your history boy. Thank you so much for listening. I have quite the epic story to tell you today.
I think you guys are going to like what you hear.
He's going to read
you're
the
gonna love it.
screenplay for Troy.
Actually, I think this story is actually better than Troy.
Better than the movie Troy.
No way. I can't
The
imagine.
Wolfgang Peterson
If you can
classic.
believe it.
Yeah.
Today I have planned for you the Siege of Malta.
Cool. I love malt drinks.
Oh, I like.
We're gonna get all the malt ball stuff out of the way.
I mean, A&W.
It's like the Super Sales last episode,
Yeah.
where you geniusly told a whole Super Sales story to burn us out, so we never brought it up again.
Yeah.
It was a deft maneuver. I can't
should
say I'm full of those.
I should have brought some single malt scotch.
Well, I
brought some Ovaltine.
one thing I'm disappointed you didn't bring up right off the bat that actually Erica did, listener of the show and also bartender at the unofficial headquarters of the History Boiz, the Rendezvous in Seattle. She said, "I bet you it's a whopper of a story."
Man.
I had to give her credit for that.
Can we hire her to be a comedy writer?
She's gonna replace you at some point.
She's gonna replace all of us.
If she has some of those she's gonna replace you.
Oh man.
She's a great singing
Tyler,
voice,
you've
too.
been on thin ice from the beginning.
That's what you get for having a kid.
You've been replaced once, we'll do it again.
He got a write-up for having a child.
Being replaced
That's a
at
demerit.
home. I got that kid.
Have a kid? That's a demerit.
Yeah.
That's a paddling.
Yeah. So in 1565, a handful of fanatical Christian knights stood against the full weight of the Ottoman Empire on a small island south of Sicily called Malta. The native Maltese are probably descended from Bronze Age civilizations, particularly the Phoenicians. There's a lot of Arab influences as well with the indigenous Maltese.
People from Phoenix.
They are... the Maltese are some of the earliest Christian converts, converting in 60 AD when St. Paul landed there.
They folded like a deck of cards.
Well, they're one of the earliest Christians.
Well, it didn't help that all of them were also Falcons.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that.
The Maltese Falcon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
Wait, that's where it's from?
Yeah, it's from
I'm
Malta.
kidding.
Malta?
I knew that.
Now, Malta was relatively infertile, having a lot of sand and rock, not a lot of soil.
Yeah.
So basically, you dig down a couple of feet, and that's all the soil you have to work with before you hit just rock and sandstone.
Cool.
So it grows a certain amount of crops, but it's a finite, you know. So there's a lot of fishing villages, things like that on Malta.
Now, fish I can eat.
Oh, yeah.
Malta stood halfway from the east and the west of the Mediterranean. And it turned out to be the only thing that was standing in the way of full Ottoman control of the Mediterranean.
The only thing blocking the doorway was the Ottoman.
Yes. By the way,
That is really good.
it is. Me and Susie just got an Ottoman. Because Susie, for a long time, was like, I need an Ottoman. I need one. So we got one. And the cat lays on it all the time now. So it's her Ottoman. So Susie can't even use it. Because the cat's always...
You're supposed to put your feet up and
lounged
take a
up.
load off, and the cat's just
The cat's
sleeping on
just
your feet
lounged
on the
on this
cat.
thing.
That's what I do with my cat.
it. Or get a second Ottoman and be like, you can't put your feet on that one, that's the cat's Ottoman.
But my
Yeah.
cat is huge. You can put your feet on that cat. She's fine.
Yeah. Oh, Beerus?
Beerus?
Yep.
doesn't give a
17
shit, dude.
fucking pound Beerus.
Beerus is the Ottoman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got an
And
Ottoman.
Beerus doesn't care. Is
Yeah, she
like
doesn't.
one of the most docile cats you'll ever
Like,
meet.
I live like this now.
Yeah.
It's a living.
So by the mid-1500s, the Ottoman Empire was at its height. Their borders stretched from Budapest in the north
Cool, been there.
to all the east coast of the Adriatic. So you know where Italy is? You know there's water in between that and like Croatia.
Yep.
Yes.
So that body of water between Italy and that side of Europe, that's the Adriatic Sea. They held that whole part there. That whole part.
Look at a
into
map,
Greece.
folks.
Actually, when we get there, we are going to post a map with this episode. I would like everybody to see this map because it's kind of essential for understanding the full weight of the story. If you can, at all possible, look at the map that I have posted with this episode.
We promise
It
it's a
will
real
help.
map this time. It's not just pictures of me, but like as a superhero that I made in Photoshop.
Yeah. Anyway, going back to their borders, the Ottoman Empire also encompassed all of the Black Sea, all the way around the Black Sea, and they took down into the Persian Gulf, all the way down into there, the eastern coast of the Red Sea, and all of the southern African coast of the Mediterranean pretty much was theirs.
You're saying the Ottoman Empire was so fat that when it sat around the Black Sea, it sat around the Black Sea.
Yeah.
Am I right? Am I right? This guy knows what I'm talking about. This is the reason why I'll never be replaced.
My mind has been blown by that.
Do you guys know what Corsairs are?
I feel like I've heard of that in an RPG or two.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
feel. Are they like they're like a cool, fast talking guy who's like dual wielding pistols?
They might dual wield pistols.
I thought that it was a strategy when you play Risk.
There might be an element of that in there. It's been a long time since I've played Risk.
Ooh, brand of ram. Corsair is a brand of ram. But I have a feeling it's not the answer.
Are we talking
to
about
that.
It's
RAM?
not.
Yeah.
Random access memory.
okay.
Fucking love it,
A
dude.
corsair
tight.
is a pirate.
Oh.
Yeah.
But it's a pirate that works for one person in particular.
Like a privateer.
Like pirates.
Privateer. But a corsair, most of the time, there's also a religious aspect to it. Okay.
Pirates don't have religions.
That's why it's a corsair.
You idiot.
Follow along,
You
Zach.
absolute maroon. I'm sorry. I
Better
feel
than a
like that.
Maroon 5.
Ah, fuck Maroon 5. There were Ottoman corsairs at this time in the Mediterranean, and they were raiding all over. At this time, what was called the soft underbelly of Europe. It's basically the northern borders of the Mediterranean
Yeah.
to all the land of Europe.
It's like a cat when it doesn't like you petting its tummy.
Yeah. Yep.
Try to-
That's Spain, Italy, and France.
So when I try to
and
brush my
Genoa.
cat's tummy because Beerus has long
Genoa.
fur, I'm trying to brush
It's long.
Beerus. I'm dealing with the same thing they were dealing with.
Right. The exact same thing. But the Corsairs would raid all over and take full populations away in chains as slaves.
Those Corsairs
Cool.
were like, let me stroke your bell.
Yeah.
I'm just stroking your
It-
belbow.
It became, especially in this time frame, it became sort of a backwater. Fuck that place, because the New World had been discovered by this time.
And it's new.
And that's where they're sending people like Aguirre to during this time.
True heroes.
Whereas, like, the Mediterranean was becoming, like, this lawless place, just full of
Cool.
pirates that wasn't, it was this outdated backwater, and people were like, fuck that. New World is where all the money's at.
just like Seattle now that Biden is president. Lawless wasteland.
I don't know. To me, it sounds like it's more and more like that hit TV reality show Kid Nation,
Or that
Where
other
there's
hit
no
reality-
adults.
Oh, it's just kids just hanging out.
Oh, Lord of the Flies?
Yeah.
I've not read that because I don't read books.
What is
Reading
this?
goes hard.
What is this? Another season of The Bachelor?
Nice.
Tyler, the more you say it, the more you're going to lose the weight of the joke.
No,
Technically, the
I'll tell
audience
you
has
that
only
it's
heard it
funny.
once because the second time I said it, we weren't recording, and the first time I said it is a Patreon exclusive. So hop on over to our Patreon and listen to our exclusive episode coming soon, where I make the joke once. So then when you hear it on this episode, you're like, I get it.
Yes. So yeah, these corsairs would take a lot of slaves, and what they would do with these slaves is they would become a part of their whole operation. And what I really mean, especially if they were seafaring, which a lot of them were. I mean, if they were
You're
just
getting them from
stationed
the sea.
in the Mediterranean, they were galley slaves. So slaves on the boat, like in Ben-Hur, like rowing.
Oh, those guys.
Ramming speed. Yeah.
Yeah, you put several people to one oar, and then there's banks and banks and banks of oars. So there's hundreds of slaves on each boat, like paddling it to the whip of the Ottomans. So like they'd straight up whip them. They're naked as the day they were born on these boats, and they would take. You're gonna see this again. This is something that everyone would do, but they would take bread and steep it in wine. And come along and just stuff it in your mouth, so you didn't have to get up and you wouldn't starve to death.
Did they have to piss and shit in bottles?
They just did that where they were sitting,
No.
which is sanitary, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even Amazon doesn't give you wine smoked bread, so
It's true.
I was gonna just say that it reminds me of back when World of Warcraft was super popular. That's what a lot of people would do.
I saw that.
Eat wine-soaked bread.
Yes.
Yeah, while they piss and shit.
What do they call that when it's fruit? Spody?
Spody.
Eh.
Yeah. There's,
Get you fucked up.
the dude running the whip was like, here's some of Brody's Spody, and just feeding it to the slaves, and they're like, this is a gnarly job. There's like, you get exercise, you get sun, you get to travel the Mediterranean, it's great. I really miss my family.
And freedom.
Your anger is strong, 41. It's from Ben-Hur.
Yeah, he didn't like the Spody.
By the way, they didn't really have galley slaves in the Roman times. During this time they did. Anyway.
Ben-Hur done that.
God damn it.
So Suleiman the First, the lawgiver, or more commonly known in the West as Suleiman the Magnificent.
Ooh, he's a magician.
Ooh.
He was the 10th emperor of the Ottoman Empire. And
I bet he made a few coins disappear into his larder. You know what I mean?
Jesus.
Larder's a different thing. I was thinking,
It's like a
coffer.
pantry.
I was thinking coffer.
I thought you were bringing back the shoving coins up your ass or something. Like he's
ass
over there just
pennies.
shoving coins up his ass.
Yeah, that's ass pennies,
Ass
dude.
pennies.
You've
Yeah.
all handled my ass pennies. Upright Citizens Brigade.
Yeah. He had conquered Belgrade into Hungary. He had expanded the Ottoman borders to the north and to the south. Like, the reason why he was given such crazy monikers is because he deserved it. Like, there's a whole episode to be done just on Suleiman the Magnificent. This man was
Magnificent.
honestly magnificent. He really was.
He was a wonder to behold.
He really was.
Look at the light he gives off.
Yeah. And this is a time when most of the world powers were looking to the New World for riches and the Crusades and going to, the Levant and things like this, which is around modern day Israel and Syria and all of that. That whole area, that strip there.
The main
is the
populated
Levant.
areas had all scooped up their riches, so they got to go to other places for
Well,
riches.
once the Crusades sort of ended, they were like, you know what? We have bigger fish to fry rather than just hating Islam.
Wait,
right?
so there's a fish fry going on?
There's a what?
There's a fish fry happening?
Oh, yeah. It's
Crab egg.
Yeah.
Crawdad bake?
Crawdad.
Crawdad boil.
Low country boil.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, because there's also the Protestant Reformation that also happened. So there's just bigger fish to fry than hating on these Ottomans, right? Whereas the Ottomans, they never forgot what a big deal it was to
Like,
hate Christians, right?
Y'all been hating on us forever, and now you got all these other newfangled things to hate. You're not hating on us anymore.
Well, and their biggest reason for success was how fanatical they were against Christians.
That helps.
So they held on to those beliefs.
That's how Trump became president.
Whereas Christendom at this time, the fervor against the Turks was lessened. And that's also probably because they were losing at this point.
That certainly doesn't sound like a Turkish delight.
Oh, dear Lord. So yeah, the Mediterranean became sort of an outdated way of looking at things, especially from the European mindset, because the Ottomans controlled all of it, and it was full of Ottoman corsairs, Ottoman pirates, basically. And so if you were not Islamic, then these ships that outnumbered you vastly, like their corsairs, they had full fleets of ships, and they would raid like cities all up and down the Mediterranean.
You don't even
It's
feel
soft
special.
underbelly.
With impunity, they would do this.
It's like when you try to brush your cat's tummy, but they don't give you the rabbit kick.
Yeah.
And fuck up your fucking.
Yeah.
John Sparkles did that. We called it the kill box.
Oh, the rabbit kick is the
Remember that?
cat. Is the cat trying to disembowel a small
I know.
creature? Yeah.
So, I mean, why even live there? Why not just move?
The feta, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Feta.
Well, there's
Feta
people
and, there's like olives.
This is before Trader Joe's. You can't just pick up feta.
people had lived there, of course, for thousands of years. The thing is that there was everything that existed in the east of the Mediterranean was heavily controlled by the Ottomans, and anything basically west of Malta and Sicily was still tenuously in the hands of Christendom. Okay?
Christendom.
Yeah.
Pointing myself because my
Yeah.
name's Chris.
Yeah, you're named after...
I'm named after our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's what your parents were doing when
Chris.
they named you.
Yeah. But Malta was right in the middle. And it was sort of the
Malta
barrier.
in the middle.
Yeah.
I love that show.
It was sort of in the middle. It was basically keeping the Ottomans from having full control of the entire Mediterranean.
So is Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
It's Malta's dad.
Yeah. Dear Lord. So Malta, I'm going to kind of go back and forth in time here a little bit. I just want you to understand a few things. Malta, by the 1560s, was the new home of the Order of the Knights of the Hospital of St. John the Baptist of Jerusalem.
Some fucking specific
Or-
ass night ordering.
Yeah,
The
for real.
Order of St. John, or the Knights Hospitaller.
But
Okay.
were they really hospitable?
Oh, they were.
They were more hospitaler
They were.
than most.
Hospitaler than who? Well, these guys. It's like you hire some dudes that are less hospitaler,
They're
less hospital than you.
Hospitable.
hospital.
Hospitable.
I thought you said hospital.
I did say hospitaler because they were hospitalers.
So they were spittling while they
And
were
they're above
given
average in
hospitality.
hospitality.
Yes. So, the order was established during the Crusades of the 11th and 12th centuries. Their headquarters were in Jerusalem, where they opened hospitals
Yep.
Okay.
to help care for the sick and the dying.
Yeah, who were killed by that dude in Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You're like, oh, this guy got stabbed by like a hidden blade.
Hidden blade.
Yeah, it's spring loaded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But their whole aspect when they were first founded was to open hospitals and take care of people, and they didn't really have a martial wing until much later. Honestly, until Christianity controlled the Holy Land. Once Christianity controlled the Holy Land, all of a sudden there was all these people from all over Europe that wanted to have pilgrimages to the Holy Land to see like what the Bible's fucking talking about. Like, here's where Jesus stood kind of a deal. And the thing was, though, is it's still a hard and difficult journey to get down there. So the Knights Hospitaller expanded to, like, these soldiers of fortune and adventurers who would protect people that were on their way.
like
pilgrims.
mercenaries.
That sounds
Pilgrims
so much
on their way
cooler
to the
than
Holy
just-
Land.
I'd rather be a sword doctor than a scalpel doctor, if you know what I
Slash them up. That's 5 pairs of sunglasses.
mean. I give that a 5 out of 5. Slashing up people that are enemies of your deity of choice, or my
I give that a
deity
5
of
out of
choice.
5. 5 out of 5. Cool points.
I give it a 6 out of 5 swords.
Ooh,
Swords are cool.
These knights came from everywhere in Europe. They came from France, Italy, Spain, mostly those 3 places. But there was also Germans. For a long time, there was English. Henry VIII did away with the English chapter of the Knights Hospitaller.
Sounds like
because
he
of
did
the
away
break.
with a number of things. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, because of the break with the Catholic Church, and that's why he did that. Because the Knights Hospitaller are a Catholic order, right?
Every
Like-
time you say hospitaller, it sounds like you're pronouncing it wrong.
No, I know. I looked it up
I
multiple
believe you.
times, and it's spelled hospitaller, and I thought it should be hospitalier, and I'm still stumbling on that, but it's not. It's hospitaller.
Hospitaller sounds like a word nobody would choose to make part of their language.
Right.
Yeah, like
They were
It
hospitallers.
just sounds like shit.
They opened everywhere they went. They opened hospitals.
Here you
That
go.
was that was their main thing.
this is what it sounds like. Because I just found a thing on it.
Hospitaller.
Jerry's right.
Yep.
Again, I looked up all those.
I believe you. It sounds like shit, and I
hospitaller.
hate it, and I wish it was a word that would die.
I'm really
And it
sick
sounds
of
like it
Zach's
has.
phone always putting me in my place.
Yeah.
But, do you think when they were, like, starting the order, they were like, so we're going to go around setting up hospitals, and we're going to charge people like $500 for a Band-Aid. This is going to be great.
No,
they
no.
need to have something called insurance.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, no,
We're living
they
in
were
a-
not capitalistic. So the one thing all of these people did have were their undying devotion to their faith.
Okay.
Because when you join the Knights Hospitaller, you take oaths, right? And I'm going to go into what all of those oaths mean.
Wait, there's...
This is a order. This is an order, a religious order of knights. And they don't answer to anybody on this earth except for the Pope.
Oh, like the Freemasons.
Now the Knights Templar, very much like the Knights Hospitaller, but not the same.
Okay.
So basically, when the Crusades stopped, the Knights Hospitaller kept their hospitals open, but the Knights Templar didn't have anything like that, so they turned to banking, and that is what took them on their route.
I mean, I get it. I'm kind of a Pope head myself, so, like, I'm into it. I get it, you
Yeah.
know.
You're practically the Pope of the crew.
Yeah, I'm practically the Knight Hospitaller of the group because I'm pretty into the Pope. I think he's pretty cool.
4.5 sunglasses.
You're the only. Yeah, he gets 0 sunglasses from me. The Pope gets no sunglasses from me. I don't care who the Pope is.
He likes to rock and roll.
Each member took an oath of poverty, chastity, and obedience.
Ugh.
Sounds like
faith,
hell already.
To the faith. To the Catholic faith. Now, when many knights of the Crusades went home, even after Jerusalem fell back into Muslim hands, the Knights Hospitallers stayed. And they were one of the few that stayed. They were eventually driven from Jerusalem. I'll kind of get more into the nitty-gritty of that later.
Would they run out on a rail?
Love it. No,
Yes.
I will let you know if somebody is run out on a rail.
Excited for it.
Yeah, it'll happen, I promise. Their devotion to the Catholic faith was, again, it was very fanatical and matched only by the Ottoman Turks' fanaticism.
Right.
The order answered only to the Pope and never to any sovereign, never to any king or prince of Europe or to anybody else. The 8 points of the cross, you guys have seen the Maltese cross, right? It's a 4-point cross with 2 points at each end. So it's an 8-point cross.
It's got
Yeah,
hella crosses.
shaped like a falcon. Yeah.
It's like, those crosses.
Shaped like a cross.
Those crosses have like hella more crosses.
Well, it just has points on the end. Anyway.
Yo, dog, I heard you like crosses, so I put crosses inside your crosses.
Well, similar iron crosses were co-opted for the Nazis. It has nothing to do with the Maltese cross. Several people in the 70s said that the Maltese cross was anti-Semitic. But they're actually mistaken. And let me explain to you why they're mistaken. It's because they're thinking it has something to do with the Iron Cross. It really has nothing to do with the Iron Cross. Let me tell you what those 8 points mean, because it has a meaning. This symbol has very ingrained meaning. The 8-point cross was all over their clothes. It was all over everything they had. It was on their flag. And here's what the eight points stood for. To live in truth, to have faith, repent for one's sins, give proof of humility, to love justice, be merciful, be sincere and wholehearted, and to endure persecution.
They sound like a bunch of squares.
Except for that justice one. I love justice.
Yeah.
They sound like Jedi.
And
A little bit. They are.
Enacting
They're like
justice.
warrior monks is what they are. They're warrior monks.
But do they have
Just like Jedi.
magic?
Well, the thing is about them is that they are, if you're a part of the martial wing of this order, they are the most highly trained, highly skilled, and battle-tested, constantly battle-tested knights on the face of the planet at this time.
Cool.
So they had the highest midichlorian count.
yeah.
They're basically Jedis.
Cool.
They're warrior monks, is what they are.
Can they heal like a worm creature underground?
They healed my worm creature underground. Just hearing about it.
Ray did it. I saw it in a documentary.
Yeah.
But enough about Ghostbusters.
I meant Ray Liotta.
Dear Lord. This is really going on.
Jedi Master Ray Liotta.
Now, the 8 points also came to represent the different longs, or tongues of the order, languages of the order. Basically denoting where they all came from, because they came from all over Europe. There's still some disagreement on the separation of different languages and different longs that came and morphed through this over time. But a general idea of what the 8 points of these are the first one you might recognize, the Auvergne. Remember that? That's where Lafayette was from.
Oh.
And
yeah,
remember,
that guy.
Lafayette's father went on crusade as well, and he was said to have possessed the crown of thorns at some point. So
He did. I remember you saying that.
yeah, so
Right.
they came from the Auvergne, Provence, France, Aragon, Castile, Portugal, Germany, Italy, and England. And of course, Henry VIII dissolved the English branch. There were only a couple left by the 1560s.
Viggo Mortensen was there?
No. No.
You snuck in Oregon, right?
Yeah, that was the
Yeah,
trick.
yeah.
That was the
Or-
trick
That's a
one.
place. That's a place.
Oregon? I don't know.
Aragon. Yeah, that's a place.
Yeah, in the Pacific Northwest.
No.
It's talking about Erdogan.
So a lot of the English chapter of these knights, they fled in exile to Rome to live there, among other Catholics.
Mamma mia.
Because England was now ruled by Protestants and people of the Church of England.
Ugh.
Right, so they were no longer welcome there.
The British.
You believe a slightly different version of the thing that we believe in. You get gone.
I want to get divorced.
You can't get divorced.
Well, now I can, because I'm Henry VIII.
If
And
I want,
I'm
I can
just
go
gonna
down
do
the
it.
street
I'm
and
just
get a
gonna
French
do this.
tickler.
Yeah. I'm a Protestant, and proud of it. Anyway, so after being expelled from the Holy Land, these knights, they were homeless. They didn't have a place to call their headquarters for a long time.
Oh, we still have those nights in Seattle.
But their new mission was to be the eternal adversary of anyone that they saw as a threat to the prosperity of Christendom.
They're just going around being like, if anyone has anything bad to say about Christ, I'm gonna kick your ass.
Pretty much.
It's
And
like
not just kick your ass, but like
Murder.
kill every motherfucking last one of you. Because these guys, again, they're fanatics.
Yeah.
They're not just Christian warriors here. They're fanatics. Again, they're warrior monks. Like, they're bound to oaths.
So this is what the Deep South thinks of themselves whenever they say
Yes.
that they're...
Yeah, the South rose again, grabbed the remote control, and then sat back down on the couch. So the order became master sailors. You know, most of their operation being in the Mediterranean, fighting these Barbary pirates and these corsairs, these Ottoman corsairs.
Maybe they just want to give them haircuts.
Nice.
They're like, we're almost barbers, but we're not quite barbers.
Tyler.
We're Barbary.
The Barbary pirates came from the north coast of Africa.
In one of the Monkey Island games,
Berbers.
there's a barber
Barbers.
shop that's called the Barbary Coast.
Nice.
There you go.
And it's very funny. It's a funny pun, and it works, and
It's funny.
I love Monty Python. Or
Chris-
not Monty Python. I love Monkey Island.
You should explain why the thing I said is funny, because somebody else said it, and it was funny then, but it wasn't funny when I said it.
I'm saying why it was funny when you said it. Why they should be laughing.
Then why didn't you laugh? Because you never laugh at my jokes anymore.
Because I don't have feelings anymore.
Save it for group, guys.
Yeah. Save it for couples therapy. Best friends therapy.
The order became master sailors. Anywhere that there were Muslims killing Christians, they would be there, exacting their own brand of justice.
Nautical justice.
Yeah,
Dope.
yeah. They were locked in an eternal holy war with these people because they didn't answer to any sovereign. So the people that they would always fight would always be the Muslim Turks. They would
They're
only
like-
ever fight them.
They're like,
Mortal enemies.
the Dora Milaje has jurisdiction wherever the Dora Milaje happens to be.
Exactly. Wherever you lay your hat is your home. Mm-hmm. Anyway. And again, these guys are the Navy SEALs of their day. They're some of the most highly trained, constantly battle-tested, hard motherfuckers, right? Now, I'll kind of get more into what makes them this way a little later. Now, both the knights and the Ottoman soldiers believed, in their own way, that paradise awaited them if they should fall in battle.
They get
Right.
like 72 virgins, or...
Well, I mean, that was on the Ottoman side, but I mean, the same promise existed for the Knights Hospitaller, where like, there's a papal bull that says, if you fall in battle in defense of your religion, then you are guaranteed all of your sins are wiped clean
It's like
and you go straight to
Valhalla,
heaven.
man.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
It's Valhalla for Christians.
Oh, a paradise.
Which
Yes.
sounds really cool.
Put up a
Because they're
parking
like,
lot.
oh, they're Vikings. It's really dope, but it's really a way to trick people into fucking fighting to their death.
Yeah.
You get a like cut in line in heaven if you're killing Muslims when you die.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Well, not
Alright.
cut in line, but you get the fast
The
rate.
fast pass.
pass.
The fast
Yeah,
pass. You get a fast pass.
Fast pass.
Yeah.
Heaven fast pass.
You still gotta wait in line, but
And
it's
you still
not
gotta go through
nowhere
security.
near as long.
It's like 15 minutes instead of 2 hours.
You can't be
Yeah.
bringing a pair of toenail clippers into
No. Now, both sides, the Ottomans and the Knights Hospitaller, and I mean those two. I don't mean the rest of Europe. I mean the Knights Hospitaller and the Ottomans. They both believed that it was their duty to fight anybody on the other side, because they perceived the other as a threat. And it was their obligation to send the other to hell. And, on top of that, everyone on both sides is eager to die in battle against their foe. Not just looking forward to it, not just this is what needs to happen, eager.
So
Eager.
everyone was eager.
Eager to die.
So there was
against your foe.
There wasn't any sort of like Romeo and Juliet type romance that ended up happening.
No.
Never once.
Nope.
That's the movie I want to make.
It's like
Brokeback
that-
Mountain, but with a Templar and an Ottoman.
They know that
Not a Templar. Hospitaller.
Hospitaller.
Well, you know that the sex would be super hot too because of
it's
just like
forbidden.
the amount of like anger and resentment that they would have to with one another.
Well, once you get to heaven, you can fuck whoever you want. It doesn't matter. You get that sweet ass loft with an infinity pool.
Or the Mormons, you can marry like 16-year-old girls while you're 77. In the afterlife, you are guaranteed that these girls that you married when you were super old are going to be your wives still in the
They're
afterlife.
gonna be
so
77
it's
then.
them calling
Yeah.
dibs.
They're calling dibs. That's what it is.
That's what they should call it. Dibs.
That's the Mormon religion.
That's
for
what
ya.
marriage is.
Yeah.
Dibs.
Yeah, but in Mormon religion, you can do it with anybody,
Fuck. I just did it once.
and you're like, oh, I don't care how old she
Actually,
is.
my wife
Dibs.
did. My wife did it on me. She goes dibs.
Yeah,
And I was like,
that's how it worked for you. So the knights settled for a short time in Cyprus. You know where Cyprus is?
Yeah.
It's that island
it's
in
got that hill.
in the East Mediterranean.
It's an effect.
Right? They settled there for a short time, but then they moved to Rhodes in 1310, which is Rhodes, the island of Rhodes.
Oh.
It's just off the coast of then Byzantine Turkey.
Yeah,
It's just off the coast of Byzantine.
It's in that
Turkey.
little. It's in the that archipelago between Greece and Turkey.
Yes,
Right off Broadway.
Exactly. It's very close to Turkey.
It's pretty
very
south.
close.
It's southeast, so it's by like between Crete and Turkey.
Yes.
Oh, this geography's making me hungry.
I'm sorry, I have a weird.
Where's
I'm weirdly
hungry on
good
the
at.
Chris knows Greece really well.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I love. I grew up loving Greek mythology, and it kind of came out of there. But I also kind of love maps. So I know where the shit is.
Le maps.
Cartography,
Yeah.
So you are the
Le
cartographer.
cartography.
open heart surgery.
Yeah, sure. Okay, anyway. Now, they remained on Rhodes even after Mehmed the Conqueror took Constantinople as his new Islamic capital, which made Rhodes extremely close to the new Ottoman Turkey. And the Knights, they did their best to basically disrupt all of Ottoman trade in the Mediterranean so long as they existed so close to Turkey.
Okay.
Right, so they had to be dealt with, right? Because, again, they were they were really good seafarers,
Yeah.
and they were so close to Turkey, they had to be dealt with. And for 2 centuries, they were a nuisance to the Ottomans.
They're like a regular Dennis the Menace.
Yeah, they were the Dennis the Menace.
Slingshot in the
and-
back pocket. You know,
And
the whole thing.
Suleiman the Magnificent was
Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Wilson.
He was not feeling so magnificent that day.
No. And there's a story for another day where the Ottomans invaded Rhodes to kick out the Knights Hospitaller. They stayed lodged inside this fort on Rhodes for a long time, longer than it should have taken.
Must have smelled great in there.
Well, yeah. The Ottoman took the largest amphibious assault of all time across Turkey into Rhodes, where he brought, sources disagree, but he either brought 100,000 or 200,000 or somewhere in between troops from Turkey over to Rhodes, where they conquered Rhodes.
And you said this is an amphibious attack, right?
An amphibious attack, yes.
So they had maybe 50 Seattle Ride the Ducks mobiles.
They had 400 boats that took over 100,000 troops.
I was thinking
to
of Land
Rhodes.
Rover, but I couldn't remember the exact car Dennis drove in Always Sunny.
Yeah. The
This
thing
is not
was,
a starting car.
The thing was about Rhodes is that it was so close to Turkey that the Ottomans could easily resupply their army. It wasn't that far away, so they could easily resupply their army. So it was pretty easy for them to win. Even still, the Knights Hospitaller gave them one hell of a fight. Again, this is a story for a different day. But what ended up happening is that they got cornered. All the knights got cornered. And
Every corner a night.
Suleiman said, "Listen, I'll let you all leave. Just free. I won't do anything to you. I'll let you all leave if you just surrender now and just leave." And they took his deal. And they took off, and they were homeless again. You know, the Sultan took Rhodes, but it was a hard-fought, win. Yeah. And the knights still existed. He didn't eradicate all of them. They still existed. But they bounced around for a little bit. Tripoli was kind of a place where they stayed for a while, but that was taken by the Ottomans as well. Mm. It wasn't until Charles V of Spain. He was the Spanish king and also Holy Roman Emperor of the time. He gave them Malta because he knew that it was sort of a last bastion between here and there. You know what I mean? Like, this is the only thing really standing in the way between the Ottomans and the rest of the Mediterranean. So I'm going to put you right in the middle, and I'll let you guys keep on keeping on, like, raiding these ships and take... Because, again, like, their mission has not changed. Yeah. They're in eternal holy war with the Ottomans, right?
They sound awful. Like, to have to deal with them, they're always just like...
They're Navy SEALs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like zealot Navy SEAls that are just constantly being like...
Single-minded.
Did you just say something about God? You're like, no, I didn't. I just said this corn's good, man. And he's like, all right, man. I'm going to believe you this time.
And the thing about the Maltese having Arabic influences, like their capital at the time was called Medina. Mm-hmm. Not spelled the same way, but it's called Medina. And it was named that by the indigenous Maltese, which just means the city. Yeah. Medina just means the city.
Righto.
A lot of their language is that Arabic dialect, right? Yeah. So, but again, they're Christian, right? So that's a whole other thing about it.
Was their city funky cool?
No. Fuck. The Knights disrupted all Ottoman trade in the region and all Ottoman corsairs in the region, becoming the biggest nuisance and thorn into the Sultan's side for, again, 2 centuries. Jesus. They had this stuff. And, like, when they got to Malta, like, they looked around and they were like, okay, this is going to be a place where we can hold out and we can also carry out our sea missions against the Ottomans. Yeah. Something had to be done about this in order for the Ottomans to even continue working in the Mediterranean.
A montage?
Yeah, it's a Rocky-style montage.
Yeah.
So they have a mission from God.
It's the Blues Brothers.
I was thinking that too.
They're the Blues Brothers, but their national anthem or their troop anthem happened to be Cheap Trick's Surrender. Mainly because they had to surrender.
No.
By the way,
I would say if Slayer was a Christian band, that would be like their anthem.
Oh,
like Raining Blood would be their anthem if only Slayer was Christian.
Who did that? When
No.
the bodies hit the floor. You know,
Drowning Pool?
Yeah.
No. They would be more of a striper. To hell with the devil, I would argue.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I would just say that
You're giving more credit than I would.
they reveled in bloodshed. They reveled in bloodshed as long as it was against the Ottomans.
Oh. Okay.
Reveled in it. That's why I said raining blood. It's raining blood, except it's
Hallelujah, it's
for
a
Christ.
day.
Yeah. So to reiterate, the Ottoman forces at Rhodes, with their 100,000, 200,000 troops, some say, it took the Knights Hospitaller 6 months to surrender, with their meager force of 7,000 against 200,000. It took them 6 months before they capitulated to those demands to leave, and before Charles V gave than Malta. So you know that these guys are made out of pretty tough stuff, and they didn't take that loss at Rhodes very well.
I am so surprised Zach hasn't brought up the fact that they're incels. They're actually Volcels.
Well, they have an oath of chastity.
Yeah, they literally took an oath, so they're just sexually
involuntary,
frustrated.
so
And they're like,
this
we're doing it
is-
because God. We're doing it because God. Fucking kill them. Kill
It's
them
deliberately
all.
set.
So they're just...
decels.
Yeah.
Deliberately set.
Yes, deliberately
I was saying
celibate.
voluntarily celibate.
So not incel.
Volcels. Or decels.
I like
Okay.
D-cells.
Yeah.
From the marketing standpoint of things, D-cells sounds cooler because it sounds
in-
closer to diesel.
Yeah.
Like oh, I'm running on diesel. I'm all full of piss and vinegar and full of cum.
You don't wanna
but I
fight.
can't-
They carried these big two-handed swords.
Yeah.
Oh, like a
Like a
Zweihander.
scimitar?
It was
A claymore.
no. That's what the
Ottoman.
Ottoman janissaries used to carry was a
scimitar. They
It's
cause
a curved
bleed
blade.
damage.
Yeah, it's a shorter curved blade. Anyway, in the year 1557, when the knights were at Malta, their Grand Master of their order had passed away. So they had to elect a new Grand Master of the Knights Hospitaller.
Oh, but this guy's cool.
Was his name Flash?
The man's name was Jean Perisseau de Lavalette.
Lavalette.
Not Lafayette.
Oh, Lava Lamp.
Lavalette.
He's like, yeah, my name's Johnny Lavalamps over here.
I will refer to this man as either Lavalette or Valette
Or
during this whole thing. I'm going
Lavalette.
to use it interchangeably because he used it interchangeably.
I want a lava lamp so bad.
You
Yeah.
can get him online, man.
Now,
Fans, send me a lava lamp.
Lavalette, he joined the order in his early 20s. However, he was captured and he actually served a long time as a galley slave on the Ottoman ships. And this is where he learned their language. He spoke several languages, but he learned Arabic. He learned all these learned all this stuff. He learned how the Ottoman mind works. He learned all of their battle tactics. He learned all sorts of stuff while being a slave. If you survive being a galley slave, when you come out, you are hard, dude. You've withstood fucking insult and punishment after punishment. You know what I mean? Like, they've whipped you. They've turned you into a hard motherfucker.
Yeah.
And what happened is that there was a prisoner exchange. And that's how he was released from duty as a slave. And he became the Grand Master because he was just insanely experienced. He had spent multiple years as a slave. He was older when he actually became Grand Master. And he was insanely dedicated to his faith as well.
Were the Ottomans like, all right, we're gonna choose you for the prisoner exchange, but you got to promise no quest for revenge, okay? You go your way, we go our way. Bygones, water under the bridge.
That was certainly not the case.
And he's like, yeah, no problem. I promise to just walk away, man.
yeah.
Shit happens, am I right? And they're like, yeah, man, that's the spirit. And then as he's walking away, he's like, shit happens.
Yeah. Lavalette had spies all over the Mediterranean. All over. And even in Turkey. And even in Istanbul, Constantinople.
Yeah.
Istanbul used to be Constantinople.
Yes. Yes.
You already did this joke.
Anyway, so he had
Triangle
spies.
Man.
He had spies all over, and he redoubled under him. He redoubled the order's efforts in disrupting the Corsair raids across the Mediterranean. He captured very high level commanders and governors of Egypt as well, which is like a big motivation for the Sultan to do something about these knights that he thought he had gotten rid of, but he hadn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Sultan had a harem full of women, and he had his favorite wife,
I like this.
and
Yeah,
he had
regular
a eunuch.
Tenchi
And,
Muyo.
and the craziest part about this is that during this particular time, his concubines, which are his, for lack of a better term, I guess, his wives, they had interests in the Mediterranean trade. And it was this eunuch's and his favorite wife's like interests that were being disrupted by these knights. And, you know, it was just constant stuff. And keep in mind, like, this is 1557, and Lavalette, seeing everything that's on Malta, he's like, you know, it's pretty poorly defended, you know, this island is. So he, as quickly as he could, he built up these fortresses, okay? And there's one thing I want you all to look at right now. I want you to look up this map of Malta that I'm going to provide to you. Look it up, because there's the forts that Lavalette's going to build on Malta. And the newest one is going to be the Fort of St. Elmo, okay?
St. Elmo's Fire?
Yeah, it's named after that saint.
Oh.
Yeah, and we'll kind of get to that point as well.
St. Elmo.
But it's out on this peninsula, and if you can...
Tickles.
The best way I can describe it, like, I can't actually describe it incredibly well to you. The best way to describe it to you is if you think of a horseshoe, and the left, if you're looking at the map, the left part of the horseshoe, at the end of that is Fort St. Elmo. And then it goes all the way around, and there's the Grand Harbor that goes through the middle. And then there's two more peninsulas that stick out in the middle of the horseshoe. Okay? And that is Fort St. Michael and Fort St. Angelo. Okay? And they're at the tip of each of those peninsulas.
When they combined
Okay.
forces, they became Fort St. Michelangelo.
Yeah. Well, and there's a bay that goes in the middle, and there's another, like, basically you think of it as the end of the horseshoe, right? The top of the horseshoe.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it was called Gallows Point. And the reason why they called it Gallows Point is because the Knights Hospitaller would hang Ottomans that they found out on gallows on this point as a warning to people to not show up, right? You know, it was a warning, you know.
Sure.
Played many video games where there's hanging bodies.
Dead bodies, yeah.
Witcher,
Yeah.
you know.
Gallows Point,
And they have a sign out front that says, "These are the guys that we do not like around here."
We told you not to show up, and these guys showed up, and that's what happens.
Yeah. So he's building up these forts and making them impenetrable as much as he can, basically.
So basically, instead of a horseshoe, to me it looks like it's like the snout of like a dog or maybe a hyena, and so the
teeth or something.
Yeah, like the tip of the nose
Is St.
is Fort St. Elmo, and then if you go around at the bottom jaw there, Gallows Point is that big old front toofus.
Yeah.
Then those other two, St. Michael and St. Angelo, are those little chompers on the back that are really gonna fuck you up, grinding them bones.
It's like getting bit.
And one thing I actually forgot to mention, because you said Maltese Falcon earlier, the reason why we think of Maltese Falcons right now is because what they had to give to the King of Spain, Holy Roman Emperor at the time, in order to occupy Malta, was a falcon. Every year they had to give the king a Maltese Falcon.
A real falcon or one of those
A real
jay
falcon.
motherfuckers?
A real Maltese Falcon. And considering where they are in the middle of the goddamn Mediterranean, falcons are hard to come by.
Yeah.
So a Maltese Falcon is actually a difficult thing to find. But they had never failed in doing so. Never failed.
It's Christmas again. We got to give the motherfucker a gift.
Just get the Falcons. Get all of them in advance.
He wants a Falcon. Yeah, anyway.
Fuck, you want
And falconry is still somewhat popular at this time.
Well, how can it not be? They look so adorable with their little caps on.
Yeah. Now, Lavalette was literally everyone's favorite within the order. Like, this guy was a dynamo. This guy was a true leader of men. He was a hardened veteran. He was at the Battle of Rhodes. Like, this man, he knew what he was doing. Yeah, and that's why he was elected in this way. So Lavalette, he knew that the Ottomans were going to want to finish this unfinished business
In Malta.
of wiping away these knights from the face of the earth. the knights were just a big loogie in the Sultan's face, and he knew it, and he wanted them gone. And they were a window to the rest of the Mediterranean anyway, because Spain, the underbelly of Spain and all of that was totally undefended, and if only the Ottomans could break through, they would have all of that to themselves. So he knew that he had to do it.
Back in the mix.
Yeah, well, he did, but these knights really fucked with that. And I'm not saying that they would, like, when they fought one of these Corsair boats, like a little fleet or whatever, they wouldn't just capture the boat. They'd kill every motherfucking last one of them, and maybe even sometimes burn the fucking boats.
So it is like cat's underbelly when you try to like pet it or brush it.
You get a scratch.
You get fucked up.
You get in that bear trap.
Kitty's got
That's those ships.
The sort of standing capital of Malta was Medina, as I said earlier. Lavalette made his sort of base of operations in Birgu, which was Birgu, which was the it was the town that was next to Fort St. Angelo, Fort St. Michael. There was two towns there on those peninsulas, but it was his base of operations.
So it's funny because it sounds like the words beer and the words goo.
Birgu.
Sounds like someone's using the same cup for two different things. Waka waka.
It's like that part in what was the movie where the fucking
American Pie Fucker.
And they spit in the glass, and then somebody drank the beer, and there was goo in the beer.
It's a funny goof and a spoof. So Lavalette knew that they were coming. He knew. And on May 18th, 1565, after he had built Fort St. Elmo fairly quickly, and it was a smaller fort, but he built it fairly quickly.
We needed a fort yesterday.
Yeah. But on May 18th, 1565, 180 Ottoman ships were spotted on the horizon. It took up the whole horizon of all their ships.
Sweet.
And what he ordered instantly was to take all the Maltese peasants he was like, all right, harvest all your crops and bring in all your livestock now into all of our forts. And that way we will have all the food and they will have nothing. They can't grow anything because it's infertile and you're not going to have time.
180 ships?
180 ships. The most conservative...
How many people are on these ships, though?
The most conservative estimates are 30,000 Ottoman troops. The most is 40,000. And this is a more acceptable number to this day. 40,000 of the Ottoman Sultan's greatest and most elite warriors were on these ships. 40,000 of them. These aren't just knights.
Probably just over 9,000.
These aren't just knights.
Nice, thank you.
There's a handful that are knights, and then the rest of them are like Spanish soldiers, because King Philip of Spain gave them an injection of soldiers, basically, but not very many.
So they just had a couple helper boys.
Yes. But they had, their officers were these knights, these knights hospitallers. What happened so the Ottomans, they had two commanders, and these two commanders disagreed on what to do. And Lavalette thought that these guys would land in the south of Malta. But
on the other side of this whole peninsula.
Yeah.
You're talking about.
But they didn't. They actually ran against... On the other side...
That's not what they expect.
Not the Grand Harbor, but on the other side of Fort St. Elmo, the whole fleet ran against it. And actually, Fort St. Elmo shot several of the ships and was burning them, and they're like, woohoo,
So on the other side of that horseshoe.
On the other side of the horseshoe, yeah, on the left side of the horseshoe. On the other side of Fort St. Elmo. He brought over all of the Sultan's just greatest soldiers, including thousands of Janissaries. Now during the Vlad the Impaler episode, we touched on what Janissaries are. Yeah. Now, what Janissaries are, just as a refresher,
it was like it was our second episode.
Yeah, they were all Christians. And every 5 years, anyone living underneath the Ottoman banner, they would call a general conscription to all the Christian nations, particularly in places like modern-day Romania and Wallachia. Like, remember, Vlad the Impaler, he was actually trained as a janissary.
Yeah.
And basically what they're doing, but he never broke. His brother, remember Radu, the handsome, he became a janissary.
So cool.
Red dude, the handsome.
But Vlad
5
never
sunglasses.
did. And that like tells you how fucking strong-willed Vlad was. They would brainwash them, and they would make them these, very zealous elite troops of the Sultan's army.
Oh, like StarCraft.
So these janissaries, they were, again, the cream of the crop, the best they had, because they were trained from when they were children until they were adults. They had no family, they had no one to answer to, they were not allowed to marry, they had no one. They were just there for the Sultan's whim, right? So they brought a fuck ton of janissaries. They brought some iyalas. Do you guys know what those are? So these guys, this is fucking amazing. These guys, they weren't as highly trained as the janissaries. Like, janissaries were like their Navy SEALs, but these guys were like, they were fanatical and also hopped up on the hashish
Yeah.
when they went into battle.
They like
And
to
they
party.
had a complete disregard for their own lives.
Are these the original assassins?
Well, the original assassins did the hashish.
Yeah.
And they got it. The Iyalas got the hashish thing from the original assassin
Okay.
that you're thinking of. And that's a oversimplification, but yes.
I smoked hash 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
Of course, this was high school. And all I wanted to do was just melt and be one with the couch.
Also, back then there were no couches, only Ottomans.
Tyler, that was great.
Thank you.
Now the two commanders, there was 3, but let me talk about the 2. There was Mustafa Pasha,
Oh.
and there was Piali Pasha. Now, Piali Pasha was the admiral in charge of the navy. And then Mustafa Pasha, he was in charge of the army. Right? Army.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I said that strange.
I thought I mean, hospitaler, like I'm just saying, like maybe it's an old-timey word.
They had chained up their harbors to make sure that they couldn't bring troops through the harbor, right? So that was obviously a no. Basically what happened is that they brought them down, and there was a disagreement between Mustafa Pasha and Piali Pasha on where to attack first. Mustafa Pasha, he was convinced that the key to this whole thing was to take Fort St. Elmo first, because it was the most forward outpost that could bomb their ships, because they saw
in
they
its views.
well, and they got shelled coming in, right? So he was like, that needs to be taken out first, and he ended up winning out. So he took all of his troops to this mountain, and it's right before Fort
Elmo?
St. Elmo. Yes.
And it's on the peninsula.
Yeah. Mount Shibaras.
Again,
Shibaras.
look at the map. I know
Mount
what you're talking about.
Shibaras
It's still on
is
the
where it is.
peninsula.
But it was really convenient for him because he set up his cannons up there. Now, let me talk about these Ottoman cannons. He had 3 different types of cannons.
Tell us about the cannons, Jerry.
Some that shot 10-pound balls, some that shot 60-pound balls. And then the Grand Basilisk, which had torn down the Theodosian walls of Constantinople. And this was called the Basilisk. And this thing shot 160-pound balls into the enemy forts.
I have 0 jokes.
This thing was not fucking around. This is one of the largest cannons made by human hands up until this point.
Remember that part in Glory when the dude gets hit by the cannonball?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not even 10 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's like a
100-pound cannonball.
160-pound cannonball. These are boulders that they're shooting at you.
So cool.
How do you? Yeah, I mean that's what they had to have used. How do you don't like smith a cannonball that's that big?
You sort of do.
You do.
Okay, you do.
But the thing is too,
It's
about
like you roll it. You get the kids involved. You roll it around.
it's like a snowball. The thing is about Malta is it was further away than Rhodes was, so their lines of supply were so stretched. Now, they had Tripoli below them in the south, and we'll kind of get to that later. Their resupply was nil, because the second that the knights saw these ships on the horizon, they poisoned the wells, and they brought in all of the food, right?
Somebody's poisoned the water hole.
Yeah, so they can't resupply. They have to bring all that stuff with them,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and also, if you're dealing with 160-pound cannonballs, that's got to weigh down your boats.
It's true. It's true.
Also, make it clear,
And powder.
Yeah.
You gotta bring
Right.
all that powder to fire all that stuff.
And
people are trying to connect things. Tripoli is in modern-day Libya.
Yes. Yeah, it's on the northern coast there. Yeah. And actually, fun fact, the Maltese word for God is also Allah. So when we talk about, like, the Ottoman troops running into battle and screaming Allah, because they try to, like, even the 9/11 hijackers, they try to have the last word on their lips being the word of God, right? Being Allah, right? Same thing with the Maltese. And honestly, sort of the same thing with the Christian soldiers. They're both expecting paradise at the end. So, like, when people say Christianity isn't as violent as Islam, they're simply wrong, because the Knights Hospitaller were very, very zealous. You know what I mean? Extremely zealous.
And it's the Christians that voted for George W. Bush. And so.
I think Allah Akbar translates to God is good, or for the glory of God.
Yeah, something like
It
that.
translates exactly. And the closest English translation is God is fucking dope.
This, in a lot of ways, this is a lot like the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae. There wasn't just 300 Spartans at Thermopylae. They had a bunch of other people with them. They had a bunch of Spanish soldiers, and they had the Maltese militia, which were not nearly as well trained, but the most loyal. And we'll see that later, because they lived there. So yeah, we're looking at 40,000 men against 9,000.
Wow.
That's what we're looking at. So Mustafa Pasha and everyone, they were like, you know what? This Fort St. Elmo, this is key to get.
Gotta get that for it.
This is what we decided on. And honestly, the Sultan said, hey, don't make any decisions until Dragut arrives.
Dragut?
Dragut. Now, let me talk who...
Ooh, Dragut.
Now, Dragut. A whole episode could be done on Dragut. Now, Dragut, his nickname was the Drawn Sword of Islam.
Dope.
This man was a military genius.
It's gonna be a knockdown
by
Dragut fight.
every stretch of the
Nice.
imagination. The Sultan gave express orders. Do not make any military decisions until Dragut arrives. That did not happen because these two generals, or admiral and a general,
Oh, they think they know their shit.
once they got away from the Sultan, they started bickering.
Oh, it's a regular Charles Lee
Because,
situation.
well, because Mustafa, he was the conqueror of all these cities. This man had been insanely productive as a general. He had conquered multiple places. This one rock of an island was not gonna stand in his way. He fucking knew it.
Oh, he's about to get a little lesson. And
Rock talk.
Rock talk.
He's about to get rocked himself.
yeah,
That's what you were looking for.
Talking about get the lead out.
Yeah.
Tuesday mornings on fucking KB Rock fucking 40.
Now, one thing I want you all to know about, it's May on
May?
Malta. It's May in Malta. Now,
Beautiful.
beautiful.
now
yeah.
summertime in Malta, right in the middle of the goddamn Mediterranean, it's hot.
77
Very hot.
degrees out in Seattle right now.
It's
That's too hot for me.
97 degrees of humidity.
Ooh, so they're going through that soupy air.
Oh, it's humid.
It's an island.
We talking,
I mean,
Of course it's humid.
it's hot,
We're
but
on
it's
the
a wet
coast.
heat,
We're not
so
heat.
it's miserable.
we're on a dry heat.
This is
It's like
a wet, nasty
It's like
heat.
East Coast. It's like
Yeah,
fucking New York.
it's an Ireland heat. It's nasty.
Ireland isn't that bad.
Ireland heat? That just sounds
Well, that's on a
oxymoronic.
different parallel.
He said island.
Island.
Okay.
No, this is bad heat. And keep in mind, these guys are in full suits of plate armor.
Cool.
And underneath it, they have quilted shirts to block arrows and things like that, you know? They have... It was a new invention, actually. They have really ornate armor of this time period. But it was a newer invention to have fluted armor. Do you know what fluted means?
No.
Yeah, it's there to...
It has, like, U-shapes that come to a crest, and then come to another U-shape, and then crests. And it keeps doing that. So anytime you, like, say I have a sword, anytime I poke against you, like, thrust against you,
It deflects it.
it deflects it right off of you.
That's cool.
And they had very ornate armor, because the Knights of Hospitaller came from the cream of the crop of the nobility of Europe, right? And again, Spanish, Italian, French are the main people, right? So they land, and their plan is, before Dragut has arrived, of course, is to come up Mount Chibaras, and they're going to set up their cannons up there, and they're going to take out Fort St. Elmo. And they knew that they vastly outnumbered the knights that were inside any of the forts. All of this was supposed to take a matter of weeks at the most. St. Elmo, to take St. Elmo, was supposed to be a matter of days.
Yeah.
And what they did is they shelled them first. They just unleashed their cannons first on this fort, right?
Unleash hell.
Unleashed hell. And the thing is their troops that were going down after they had shelled the fuck out of St. Elmo, the Ottoman troops that came down to try to invade St. Elmo, the forts at St. Angelo and St. Michael could see them across the harbor clearly. Yeah. Again, like, if you look at, like, the pictures of the Grand Harbor, the point in between, you can see people's faces on the other side.
Oh,
and so, like, they're shelling them from the other side of the Grand Harbor, right?
Oof.
And so it's blowing big holes in Mustafa Pasha's lines. But they get up there, you know, and they keep getting driven back and driven back and driven back. And everyone is like, okay, well, I guess this is how siege warfare works. And, like, at night, Mustafa Pasha, he had his slaves start digging these trenches right in the front of Mount St. Elmo. Mm-hmm. Right in the front. And at night, like, the knights came down, and they called it sallying forth. To sally forth. So they sally forth down there, and they killed them at night.
Nice.
And then the Janissaries found out that this was happening, and they came down and started, like, shooting them, so they, like, went back inside the fort and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But it was this constant push and pull, where, like, your efforts are doing no good. You know what I mean?
Battle of attrition.
Yes, exactly. There was about 200 knights, and then some Spanish troops inside Fort Elmo. And for Fort St. Elmo, I should say. But every time they would slam against the walls, they would be driven back. Every single time, leaving thousands dead.
So
thousands dead.
I don't think they're going to make that milestone.
Now, the Ravelin, which is the outer working of the fort, it was eventually taken by the Janissaries and by the Ottoman
As
Corps.
a souvenir.
Well, it was taken because they thought that as long as we hold that, we can certainly hold the fort.
Yeah.
You know?
right.
And meanwhile, again, they're getting shelled from across the bay. You know, but their guns are laying into Fort St. Elmo. And sometimes, like, they shell them every single morning. Every morning,
Yeah.
at dawn, they shell them and then invade. Every morning.
That's...
They shell them and invade. And it's hard to believe that anyone's even alive in there.
Wow.
Do they not expect them to shell them, or
Oh, no, they expect it. This is siege
nothing
warfare.
they can do about it?
This is siege warfare. And siege warfare is among one of the worst things you can ever experience, whether or not you're besieged or the sieger.
Yeah.
It's one of the worst things you can ever experience as a human being. So the trenches that were dug at night by the Ottomans literally right in front of Fort St. Elmo. Like, if you look at the map, there's these red squares right in front of St. Elmo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is where their new lines are. So keep in mind, like, while they're shooting and firing into the fort, their lines are literally right in front of the walls of this hastily prepared fort.
But
You
there's
know
no,
what I mean?
like, handheld projectile weapons that are...
Yeah, there are arquebusiers.
Oh, wait, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Never
Okay,
mind.
so the Janissaries carry an arquebus, right?
Yeah.
And so do the Knights. They also have arquebuses.
Yeah,
but they
that's-
have, like, the straight, like, cold steel of the sword as well.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
okay,
and-
yeah. So, yeah, arquebus that's like what dragoons carry.
Yeah, no dragoons in this story, but yes.
But very similar.
It's an arquebus. Yeah.
It's a long stick that you put a bunch of explosive shit in the tip, and then you blow it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Ottoman arquebus is actually longer. It takes longer to load than the Christian arquebus does, but it's more accurate. So they straight up had, like, Janissary snipers. Like, if you showed your face up on the walls and them being that close,
Your
they could
face is
straight up
gone.
pick you off. Like,
Jeez.
so you couldn't.
So they probably just have it loaded, waiting for people to
Oh
fucking
yeah,
poke their
at
heads
all
out.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, if you showed your face in certain areas of the wall, you're donezo. You know what I mean? Because they're looking for you. You know, there was actually a point where they took when they first took the Ravelin, the outer working of the fort. When they first took that, it was at night. We don't know exactly what happened, but basically a group of Janissaries went up there and said, everyone's asleep on the walls, and so we can attack. And they attacked. But what's more likely is that the person that was manning the walls was shot through the head, and his comrades didn't see him die.
Oh shit.
You know what I mean? So all of a sudden, they pour over the walls at a certain point, and like, they're like, oh fuck, you know, like waking up, like, oh shit, you know, but they still drove them back, which is insane.
Nighttime is great for two things, and that is
Partying?
Well, okay, a couple of things.
Okay,
I was going to say
three things.
three things: partying, making hot buttered popcorn, and murdering your enemies under the cover of darkness.
Yes.
That's what the Trojans did.
And something else that they had was something called Wildfire, which is a lot like Greek fire.
Napalm.
Yes, napalm, because it sticks to you and it boils you inside of your plate armor, right?
Cool.
And so what they would do it in a few different types of ways, right? They would put them in these either glass or clay pots that were easily broken, but it was like a Molotov cocktail, and they would light it and then throw it, and then it would explode all over you, and it's like napalm. And the way that the knights handled this is that they had strategically placed these big barrels of water. So if you got caught on fire, you jumped inside a barrel of water.
And sink immediately to the bottom in your plate armor. So the way that knights dealt with it was poorly.
No, they dealt with it pretty well. It
All
didn't
right.
really affect them as much as it could have if they didn't have these barrels of water. The Ottomans didn't have the barrels of water, and actually their armor, which are these like long flowing robes, it was better suited towards the summer climate because this is the summertime in fucking Malta.
Sure.
So the temperatures are fucking crazy. It's like 97 degrees. Humidity, like 100% humidity. And like these guys have long flowing robes, so it's like easier on them rather than like the Christian knights fighting in full plate armor and stuff. It was easier on them, but the Christian knights also had a form of Greek fire and wildfire that they would toss on them. And they would also pour big old pots of boiling water and flaming pitch on these guys. The Ottomans also had this thing. It was like if you think of like a lance, like a big spear,
Right.
but on the end of it is like a big tube, and you'd fill it with like this wildfire, this Greek fire, and it would shoot out like a flamethrower.
That's great.
And so they would do that. They would like light it on fire and get real close and blow fire all over these people.
They're like, I have this tube. It contains the contents of the universe.
Yeah.
A blast. Yeah.
But
I'll blast you.
But the Christians also had their fire, and it was more effective against the Ottomans than the Ottoman fire was against them. Yeah. Because they had these long flowing robes.
Perfect for getting lit on
and
fire.
They became like human torches, right? And I don't know if you've ever heard of these, but they also had fire hoops. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
Have you ever played Age of Empires?
Yeah, a little bit.
They have a special troop called the Hoop Throwers.
Yeah.
And they throw these flaming hoops. This is a real weapon that the Christians used. And what they would do, it's like a big hula hoop. And they would soak it in all this flammable liquid, and the process was repeated several times, but they would soak it in all this flammable liquid, and they'd pick it up with tongs and set it on fire. And then they would throw it over the walls at, like, the armies, thousands of Janissaries and thousands of Ottoman troops that are besieging your walls. And it would, like, entangle and ensnare several... like two or three Janissaries at once, and they would just go up just like that and just like be burning and like you know.
Quick question. Why the fuck is it this hard to make a movie about this?
Dude, this movie, I can't believe this is not a movie.
It's like Castle Litter. But every time it's this thing, it's like Orlando Bloom, Eva Green's in it.
Troy.
Eva Green's not
but
Troy.
Kingdom of God.
Kingdom of Heaven.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Which the uncut version is actually not that bad. It's actually pretty
Who
good.
directed that?
Ridley Scott.
Ridley
Yeah,
Scott.
I know
Yes.
I've
So
never
Ridley.
seen it, but
Yeah, like how come this movie's never been made? It'd be amazing.
pretty sure I've seen this in Where's Waldo. Am I wrong? I feel like
You're correct, but that was 500 years earlier. I know exactly what you're referencing.
yeah,
That was the Siege of Jerusalem, is what you're thinking.
that's cool.
During the Crusades.
Okay,
Yes.
the pitch.
Technically the second Siege of Jerusalem. But yeah, actually
Is that-
women...
I like how you're like specifically. I know the Where's Waldo thing you're talking
I
about.
do,
It
I
is
know exactly.
specifically which time in history it was.
And actually women and children, the Maltese women and children are the ones that poured over the burning pitch and boiling water and stuff on top of these troops. So those sticks I was talking about with like
I'm gonna add that anywhere.
the flamethrower,
Yeah,
basically. You know what that's called?
Huh.
A trump.
Ah,
That's what that's called.
there you go.
And the thing was with St. Elmo is every morning they would bombard you and just shoot all their cannons at once. Boom, 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 boom. And again, it was like hard to believe that anyone could still be alive in there. But every time they would attack, all of a sudden they get just barraged by arquebusier shots and stuff, and like bullets and all sorts of shit. But it would like come down to it, like if they breached the walls and stuff, it would come down to like cold steel. It would come down to like swords and even daggers and fists, you
Nice.
know, of just... And check this out. In a single day, the Ottomans would lose 2,000 troops. And the Knights would lose 10.
Jeez.
Nice.
And that
This is
shows
way
you the
300.
resolve. Yeah, it shows you the resolve of these knights, you know what I mean? And just what fucking badasses they were.
Well,
you know?
the knights had the holy hand grenades, so like
The Holy
it all
Hand
makes-
event, Antioch.
The Siege of St. Elmo was only supposed to last a couple of days. And the way that they held out so long is that no one was looking over the Grand Harbor between Fort St. Michael and Fort St. Angelo. So Lavalette would keep sending over like groups of volunteers into St. Elmo to reinforce the people there, right? Yeah. And the people that went over too, they knew that it was inevitable that St. Elmo was going to fall. It was inevitable.
So they're going on suicide
They're
missions.
going to their death, and they knew it.
They're
and
cool with it.
Oh yeah, and even the trip across the harbor was not safe. Like snipers would pick them off. Sometimes a guy would get his head taken off by a cannon, and it's like, oh, we lost 2 or 3 on our way there. You know?
right.
Yeah.
I 100% believe, without a shadow of a doubt, where I'm going after I'm killed. If I attempt to kill these
Paradise.
it's
Yeah.
the biggest paradise.
It's paradise.
I've ever. But like, yeah, I'm gonna run there as fast as I can.
And
hope
both
they fucking
and
kill
both
me.
sides believe this. Both sides believe this about themselves.
Yeah.
Lavalette, he would get messages back from St. Elmo as well. They would be like one guy, he was chosen to be a messenger, and probably the wrong choice, because when he got there, he was like, we need relief forces, like, really bad. Lavalette, he said, he was a master of psychology, too, with his troops. He said, all right, I'll go. And they were like,
No.
well, not you. And it's like, why not me then? You want relief? Well, I'm it.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, not you. Okay, well, then you get nobody. Because think about this. I still have to command the troops here.
Yeah.
So what are you asking? What are you asking? He's like, I will give you that infusion, but that's all I can really spare, The same guy actually came back later, and he's like, I'm wounded. And they checked him out, and it was like a scratch or something. And the thing is with the Knights Hospitaller, you're not considered wounded unless you can't stand.
Whoa.
If you can stand up, you ain't wounded, pal. You can still fight.
No,
And that's how they thought of it.
I already know that I'm not a hospitable.
Yeah.
I've been wounded by a back injury at Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
Back when I worked there.
Coward?
And,
Yeah, that's what they would
there
have
was a
said.
point where I couldn't stand.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
fair enough.
What if
That-
your arm's broken?
As long as you can stand, you're not wounded.
Well,
You got one good arm that can
You
hold the
still
dagger.
bite.
Yeah.
so,
And you're not fighting just... the thing is like, again, they don't answer to any sovereign of Europe. They answer to the Pope. They answer to their faith. They answer to God, right? So they're not fighting for anything like that. They're fighting for their faith. You know what I
They're
mean?
doing it for the big bopper.
Yes,
Yep,
right. So bone spurs would be a legitimate excuse. then.
It would not. He would have been killed in the first wave.
If your legs are impaled by horses' spurs all the way to your bones, so you can't stand, those bone spurs are probably acceptable.
But what if you're rich?
Well, the thing is the Knights Hospitaller were from the most wealthy families of Europe. Dragut finally arrived. And Dragut was furious that they had begun the siege without him. Because, again, according to the Sultan's explicit orders, they were not to begin the assault until Dragut had his 2 cents on what they should do.
Well, his actual name was Drag Out, but he was Canadian. And so his two...
I love all of our Canadian listeners, by the way.
Yeah, and it wasn't his 2 cents, it was his 2 loonies and a bag of milk.
Yeah.
We love you, Canada.
But yeah, every time that Lavalette would call for volunteers to go into St. Elmo on the suicide mission, let's face it, he always got them, and they would always go over proudly. That one guy, he actually at some point he goes, here's a petition from some of the knights that said, hey, we don't want to stand here and just be shot at. We'd like to attack and die in an attack, right? And it's not like a mutiny, it's just that we don't want to sit here. But Lavalette knew that the real key to this whole siege is it really hinges on just how long St. Elmo really can hold out, because they decided to attack that first. And Dragut, being as furious as he was, he goes, the reason why he was mad is because he went to Mustafa Pasha and he was like, why didn't you secure the whole island first before attacking anything? He goes, honestly, if you did that,
Yeah.
you could ignore St. Elmo. You could ignore it.
Yeah.
Because Birgu and St. Michael and St. Angelo, that is where the headquarters is.
Yeah.
Honestly, you don't even have to go anywhere near St. Elmo.
Let me go to the hardest part to take over.
It's like invading America, not going for DC, and just constantly throwing troops at Nantucket.
Or Montana.
Yeah.
right.
It's like everyone there owns a gun.
Yeah.
It's like you're not gonna fucking do it.
Yeah, and also, securing it won't give you any strategic advantage whatsoever.
No, it will not. But on the surface, it sounds like a strong point that once you take it, it'll all be cake afterwards, right?
They're like, we just got to get it, man. Somewhere in there, we got the hottest holiday gift of 1994 in there. We got to get it.
Yeah.
You're thinking of like 1999.
Was it 99?
Tickle Me Elmo.
Tickle Me Elmo, yeah.
God, man, time flies.
Yeah,
I think it's like more like 97.
maybe.
Maybe 96.
I was thinking it was late 90s.
Folks at home, hop on social media and leave us in the comment what year Tickle Me Elmo was the hot holiday gift.
Yeah, I'm not going to look it up right now.
I know that it was right after the Furby craze.
And
No, it was before.
but it was after Power Rangers,
Tickle
so
Me-
it was probably like
Really?
97, 98, probably 96.
I'm certain it was before.
97,
Furby.
98.
Yeah. Every time that Lavalette would send troops over, especially after like this guy's like, we need relief and we want to attack, you know, like once he got this stuff, he was like, okay, well I'm going to send over, 200 other knights because I can trust them. And I need them, remember, a part of your order, your oath, was obedience, and I am your Grand Master. And he goes, so you must obey me. And he's like, we're not attacking, and if you don't want to do what I tell you, you can come back over here right now and sit in my own fucking dungeon. I'll have people that I can fucking trust carry on the battle. And it instantly humiliated them,
Yeah.
and from then on, they became even more loyal to the cause.
They're like, I can't wait to die because my boss is a dick.
So they were shamed, basically, into standing their ground. And he basically told them, because there was the viceroy of Sicily, which is just north of them, not far away.
Sounds important.
I know.
And Lavalette would send messages back and forth that still got through because the Ottomans didn't guard other areas of the island. And so, like...
Why are the Ottomans fucking up so bad?
They just got really arrogant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sounds like a
They're
bunch
like, I'm running things.
Yeah, and then Black Dynamite steps in.
They figured their shit out because, as we know, the Ottoman Empire stands strong to this day.
They threw that shit before they ran out of the room.
Yeah.
Right. He kept getting messages over to the viceroy of Sicily, whose name was Don Garcia Toledo.
That's a solid name.
Don Garcia, he was like, okay, well, getting more troops for you, relief troops, that's going to take time, okay? It's going to take time. And the thing was, as well, is all the Knights Hospitaller, if the Grand Master puts out word for all the Knights Hospitaller in the world to come and join them, you have to show up or you face societal shame, basically.
He just needs to
It's
have
like super embarrassing.
So he's trying to get all these people together, but at the same time he's thinking, like the Viceroy is thinking, he's like, okay, well, first off, is it a reality that the Ottomans are going to attack use Malta as a springboard into Sicily and then up the Italian peninsula through the rest of Europe? Is that actually going to be a reality? And so many people are like,
Yes.
yeah, you know.
Why do you think they're going after this tiny fucking island?
Well, the thing is that Malta doesn't actually belong to the Holy Roman Empire, and it doesn't actually belong to Spain. It was a gift to Spain. But several people were like, hey, you did give that to them. It is sort of yours. There's a lot of your Spanish troops that are dying. You know, like, nobody really expected anyone from Germany to actually come down, although a lot did. But no one really expected that. They were just expecting a relief force. But the Viceroy, he promised... he goes, at the end of June, I'll bring 16,000 troops to your relief.
Not bad.
And he's like, okay. But the Viceroy also said, send me 2 galleys. And Lavalette was like, are you crazy?
Galleys full of what, dude?
Exactly. Like, he's like, I don't have the men to man those galleys. And I don't see how I'm supposed to get my galleys through the Grand Harbor, through the entire Ottoman Armada, which is one of the largest armadas ever put together in history. How am I supposed to do that?
You're out of your element, Donnie. You're out of your element.
Dilly dally, go get the galleys.
But you
Which
don't
one's
know
that
how.
from?
Dilly dally shilly shally from Advent Children.
Yeah.
There we go.
Jeeves said it.
You don't know how accurate that is, though, because the Viceroy did dilly-dally. And
Of course, the
every
Viceroy did
message
those.
he got back, like, there was a point where, like, the Viceroy was like, okay, well, if Fort St. Elmo falls, then it's fucking hopeless, and we shouldn't expel relief troops on Malta any longer, and we should just insulate Sicily at that point, right? So it's understandable. It seems like cowardice, but it's understandable where he's coming from, right? And it's hard to put together that much, like that many troops and all that stuff for war, within a month, right?
You're right.
So he's trying, but it's really not happening. And Lavalette, he becomes disillusioned with any idea of a relief force. So he tells everyone, he's like, do not expect anyone to come and help us. And if they relied on help from the outside, they would have certainly perished.
And then the phone rang.
Yeah. I wish. But yeah, Dragut, when he got there, he was like, all right. Well, it would be stupid to call off the attack on St. Elmo now. It'd be stupid to do that now. We can't just abandon that. Yeah. So, up on Gallows Point, he set up his cannons, and he starts shooting into Fort St. Angelo, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, well, your biggest problem is that they keep pushing soldiers over the Grand Harbor into St. Elmo. It's your biggest problem, and we need to make that stop. And from Gallows Point, he was able to shoot at those boats, and be like, okay, we gotta stop that. And Lavalette...
Seems like Gallows Point is where they should have built the fucking fort.
They should have taken the rest of the island first.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Medina, they should have taken that first. But, like, all of it, they should have taken first before they even thought about any of the forts. Mm-hmm. And Dragut was right. Like, St. Elmo could have been completely ignored. Lavalette sent around some, like a cavalry detail up to Gallows Point, and they destroyed some of his cannons. So it took him a while to get more cannons up there. He eventually did. But for a while, it gave him a good window of time where they could keep ferrying troops across into St. Elmo. The prospect of success in St. Elmo started to look more and more bleak as the days went on. Because every morning, they would just pound them with the fucking cannons. And again, the Basilisk, like shooting these 160-pound balls into the city. And like, again, every time they're like, well, St. Elmo's on its last day, here we go. And every time they were pushed back by the knights. Every time they were pushed back. And like, it was getting so desperate that they told Lavalette, they said, don't send anyone else. To do so would be cruelty.
Yeah.
To send other people in here. Like, seriously, you need to cut this off. I know that's going to make you feel bad because you're going to feel bad about losing all your brothers and whatnot in this siege. But, dude, it's not going to do any good at this point. Our walls are pulp now, And they have, I mean, they're so close. They have the Ravelin. They're so close, And they're straight up burning, like, artifacts and stuff because they don't want it to fall into Ottoman hands. Oof. So they're burning all this stuff.
Burning their own artifacts?
Yeah, Christian artifacts. Because they're like, well, they're just going to mock them, And
it's going to be so embarrassing when they're going to stick them up their fucking buttholes and, like, piss on them.
Yeah.
If it's small enough to go up their butts, it's going up their butts.
Yeah.
Maximize ornamentation so no one will want to put it in their butt. And that's the reason when you see an ornate, Catholic relic, the reason why it has all of that, kind of filigree and just ornamentation is so you can mitigate how many buttholes it's
Well, that's why the Japanese make all their robots lately, post World War II, have all these points and stuff. So if you put a fucking hava up your butt, you're going to rip it apart.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing, and they learned that from the Maltese.
Yeah. Well, to that point, though, they thought, well, what use are these artifacts if they're just going to fall into Ottoman hands? What use is it? Something that must be mentioned, because of the poisoning of the well, because of the heat, because of a lot of things, the Ottoman troops were being devastated
They
by
get fucked up.
by disease, by dysentery.
I thought you were going to say disappointment. They're being
No,
devastated
no.
by disappointment.
Get coronavirus left and right.
Mainly dysentery,
Not
but
wearing
malaria,
masks. Oof.
malaria and dysentery. Their numbers were dwindled more so by disease than anything else.
That's why you get vaccinated,
But
folks.
but didn't the Ottomans have essentially, a slave army that was very diverse?
Oh yeah,
So they're like, everyone's dying of malaria, and there's like one black guy, and he's like, I feel fine. I don't know what's up with you guys.
you go to the front. It's basically if
he
you're
got
okay,
vaccinated.
Yeah.
go to the front. Yeah, and again, like the elite Janissary Corps, they would always like put them behind the Iyalas because the Iyalas would run in. Again, they did not care about human life
Because they're high as shit.
and paradise awaited them.
Right.
So they would run in and like tire out the troops, and then the elite Janissaries would come in, and they were still fought back by the forces at St. Elmo, the small force at St. Elmo. So Dragut, he's like trying to like figure this out, and he's meeting up with like Mustafa and like the generals, and he's talking about building a screen, just a screen to block their visual from Fort St. Angelo and Fort Michael across the harbor.
Pineapple Express on it. Because that's a solid fucking movie. Super funny. Everyone likes that movie.
I thought he was going to put up a screen and then paint them going home on it.
So I fooled you. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's like, just so they can't see us. They can't train their guns on us.
But they can see their silhouettes, and they're like, oh, this is actually sexier than seeing them
Well, it's
naked.
like wood,
Yeah, oh, okay,
but anyway, they're talking about how they're going to build it. And like the gunners in St. Michael and St. Angelo, they could see them down there. And it's far enough away that they can see their like ornamental dress.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like if somebody looks fancy, chances are that they're
fancy.
they're like high ranking.
Yeah.
So like a cannoneer on one side like fired a cannon directly at them, and a piece of shattered rock flew up from the ground and lodged inside Dragut's head.
Nice.
Wow.
And it didn't kill him instantly,
But he wishes it did.
but they didn't... But they didn't want the troops to see that Dragut had died, right? Or was fatally injured, right? He died
Bernie scenario.
He died a
This is
couple
why
of
you
days
don't
later.
worship one dude.
He was just like the most, they loved him, you know what I mean? And he was like the most respected out of all of them. Even those two generals referred to him because they respected him so much. And not only like did Dragut get a rock in his head, but so did one of the Janissary augurs, which is like one of their like top commanders.
Mm-hmm.
He also was killed.
I've never
twinsies.
respected anybody like these people respect their generals.
Yeah.
And they
yeah.
still believe in higher power past that.
Well, think about this. If you're going to go into war like that, like personal war, where you're going to kill somebody that's a foot away from you, like real close, up close, you're going to see somebody in their face as they die, and they're going to do their best to kill you too. You want to know that there's a commander that is with you, that is a seasoned veteran, that will lead you to victory, And if you see a guy that's like better than you, go down, it's like, oh shit, I'm not as good as that guy.
demoralizing.
Let's get the fuck out of here.
Right.
I'm not as good as that guy. That guy's way better than me. Let's get the fuck out of here.
He's the head vampire.
Yeah, exactly.
So
It demoralizes the troops.
the smartest move for them to do was to secretly drag him out.
Drag him.
him out.
Drag the whole facade out. Put him on a intricate pulley system.
And not having the drawn sword of Islam on your team anymore, that's demoralizing.
Well, if he was the drawn sword of Islam, maybe they should have had a second draft.
When Dragut was killed, like, Lavalette found out about that right away, even though that Dragut, like, he died several days later. But he was told, like, we got him right away, It did a lot for his morale of his troops. And what this siege really is about morale and levels of morale. Yeah, they have more people, but we are in higher spirits.
We weren't doing so good for a while. But when I heard about their like leader getting a big old chunk of rock lodged in his face and murdering him, we're feeling pretty good now.
Yeah.
Morale's high.
Well, and the only thing that sort of saved him from dying instantly was his giant ass turban that he wore. It punctured his skull and he bled out, but it didn't go all the way inside his head because he was wearing it.
Yeah.
So Mustafa Pasha was getting furious because this again was supposed to take a couple of days. We're in day 20. We're in day we're in day 25, and they're still just not giving up, And so he goes, you know what? Instead of bombarding them in the morning and letting the Janissaries go in and just retreating, let's bomb them all day and all night.
Badass.
So he shot all the cannons he could at his disposal at Fort St. Elmo all day and all night. All of the cannons.
Just Peter Norton at the entire time.
Boom.
Yep.
Just smashing it as much as he could. Just
Jackhammer.
Yeah.
It's just that shot where it's just balls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when they opened up all night, there was a soldier that was there. Here's what he had to say about this particular night. Quote, "The darkness of the night became as bright as day, due to the vast quantity of artificial fires," meaning like all the fires that, incendiary devices that they would throw.
Yeah, they're setting shit on
Right.
fire. I got it.
So bright was it, indeed, that we could see St. Elmo quite clearly. The gunners on St. Angelo were able to lay and train their pieces upon the advancing Turks, who were picked out in the light of the fires. End quote.
So the Turks were firing so much munitions at the knights that they had adequate lighting to fire back at them.
Oh yeah, at night. Yeah.
That's gnarly.
Apparently, Dragut was respected for a reason, and without him there's some strategic elements that are missing
Yes.
in the in the Ottoman army.
Yes. The days of St. Elmo, everyone knows, the days of St. Elmo are looking bleak. And, they're burning stuff. They're burning their munitions so that it doesn't fall into Ottoman hands. But they're staying. And they rang the bell, which was a signal to the people across the Grand Harbor that, hey,
Dinner's ready.
this is done so for us. but the Ottomans thought that it was like a rallying cry, which it sort of was.
Yeah.
But even on their last day, what was supposed to be their last day, they drove them back again. And they kept driving back. Every motherfucker inside Fort St. Elmo was wounded in some way. And even their badass fucking Knights Hospitallers that were still there, they were so wounded that they couldn't stand, but they were like, put a chair in the breach. Yeah. And a breach is like a part of the wall that's gone, and where the Janissaries are gonna come through. These bloody ass knights sat in chairs with their fucking two-handed swords, waiting for these motherfuckers to come through. Yeah, alright. To their dying breath, they held out.
Meanwhile, it's just the munitions is just flash, 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 flash.
Yeah,
We're roughed in never land.
And they had one more bombardment, and they tried again. We're driven back one last time. But then there was another general charge, and then all of a sudden, it got really messy inside. People were cut down where they stood. There was one knight he was standing in front of the last church, the church they had
That's
at
a
St.
paladin
Elmo.
right there.
Yeah, and he was cutting them down until he was overwhelmed. All of a sudden, the flag of the order was lowered from St. Elmo, and the crescent of the Sultan was raised over the fort.
Cool.
And everyone's watching from the other two forts from across the bay, or from across the harbor. They're watching it all happen, and only 5 people made it out of the fort. 5. That's how we know what happened in these forts. There was these Maltese militiamen that made it out because they knew how to swim. keep in mind, this is a time
Where did they swim to?
they swim across the harbor.
Other parts
Right.
of Malta.
Yeah, to the
yeah, I got
to
you.
Fort
I got
St. Michael and Fort St. Angelo.
you. They weren't swimming to Sicily.
No, they swam across the harbor, and the thing is yeah, like most people knowing how to swim, that's a 20th century thing. That is not like that's something that we know how to do. Not most people, even if they were sailors, didn't know how to swim.
I'm not a great swimmer. I
Yeah.
can swim as well as I can drive a stick shift.
I can swim better than I can drive a stick shift.
I can drive a stick shift better than I can swim.
Oh.
It was at this time, the time was finally right, that Mustafa Pasha finally crossed the breach and himself walked into Fort St. Elmo. And what they did with the knights they found, and you could find the knights because of their ornate armor. And the more ornate your armor on both sides, the more you knew that somebody was important.
Right.
They really need to workshop a different way of handling that.
So what they did is they cut the heads off of these knights and like stuck them on pikes and faced them towards like Fort St. Michael and Fort St. Angelo so they could see. And then they crucified the headless bodies in mockery of Jesus'
What they should
crucifixion
have done is
towards
just
the
ripped
Christians.
off their fucking
Nice.
armor, worn a bag, and been like, I am but a peasant. And they'd be like,
Yeah.
you're good.
So everyone can see this from the other side.
Cool.
And they eventually took the crosses with the knights and whatnot, nailed to it, and they tossed it into the harbor. And so they washed up, like, on Fort St. Angelo and Fort St. Michael, and they took the bodies out. And once Lavalette found out about this, he was furious.
I bet he was salty
He was
as shit.
furious. And a lot of people, with his next action, a lot of people are like, oh, some Christian. And for good reason. Because what he did immediately was he ordered that all of their Turkish prisoners that they had in his dungeon immediately beheaded. Every single one of them were immediately beheaded.
Cool.
And he loaded his cannons with their heads and shot them back over to
Jesus
St. Elmo.
Christ.
Fucking
Wow, that's
rock
fucked up.
and roll,
That is
baby.
very non-Christian.
Yeah!
I would have done that, but I'm not a Christian, so...
I don't know if I can't
there.
denigrate Lavalette for doing that. I would have been furious as well. You know what I mean?
I would love to shoot my enemies' heads out of cannons.
Yeah.
Into the sun.
Yeah. And the
Cannons was
mutilation...
that strong bet then.
But
Yeah.
the mutilation of bodies, that was really looked down upon by Christianity at that point. So not a lot of people forgive him for that.
I'm glad that
But
we
I
It's my
understand it.
favorite thing you ever did.
Yeah.
we've come a long way in progressing and getting okay with mutilating the bodies of our enemies.
Now, the ratio of dead between knights and Ottomans, 1-6. For every knight that was dead, there were 6 Ottomans dead.
Wow.
Thousands of Ottomans perished. And a couple of knights would die.
Wow.
Thousands of them would go to their deaths. And a couple of knights would die. And something that was supposed to take 2 or 3 days, 30 days. Took 30 days for them to take St. Elmo. And they have 2 more to take now. This whole thing was supposed to last maybe a couple of weeks. That's what they told Suleiman.
What, it took a fucking month.
There's one
For
Ottoman.
one fort, my friends.
Jesus.
One fort.
There's got to be like
And their smallest fort.
you know that some of those guys are like, my wife is gonna kill me. I said I'd be home in just like a couple of days.
well, the Janissaries weren't allowed to have family.
Yeah, it's true.
You know.
That's why.
A lot of these people didn't have family. They were again the elite, the top tier of the Sultan's army, and they still died by the thousands against these Navy SEAL motherfucking knights.
Jesus.
So anytime, and this is something that exists to this day, there's a saying. It's called St. Elmo's Pay. And that's when somebody who's a transgressor comes over, they're shown no quarter, and they're killed. So, like, they would have, like, Turkish, like, people wash up and be like, I surrender. And they'd, like, cut their heads off right then and there. Not fucking worth even talking to them. You know what I mean? And actually, people inside Fort St. Elmo, they experienced St. Elmo's fire, which to them in that time, remember how we talked about...
Is that actually where the name comes from? Because they experienced it?
Well, they'd experienced it much earlier, and they experienced it at sea. We talked about it during the Blizzard episode.
Right, yeah.
Where, like, electricity clings onto things, especially ship masts and stuff. But at the Fort of St. Elmo, they experienced the phenomena, the St. Elmo's fire phenomena. And that, to them, was a sign that St. Elmo was on their side.
Jeez.
You know?
Yep.
So Lavalette, he resolved to fight to the end. Because he told everybody, again, like, he kept getting messages this whole time, like, from the Viceroy of Sicily.
Yeah.
Saying, like, just a little while longer, you know, it's taking kind of a long time. And he's like, all right, no relief is coming. We fight to the end. You die where you stand. We die together, you know. And that, like, solidified everybody. And he even told the native Maltese, because he noticed when he fought at Rhodes that the indigenous people of Rhodes were like, well, I don't care who wins. You're both invaders as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And as if they only, like, thought for 1 second to tell them, like, hey, who would you rather live under, us or them, you know? And he basically said, like, it seems annually, every year, these Ottoman corsairs come to your island and drag away half your population in chains. And they were like, oh, dude, we're one of the first Christians in the world. We're with you, buddy. Yeah. And a bunch of people defected from all walks of life that were involved in this battle. They all defected. Not a single Maltese ever defected. Not a single one. They always fought with the knights. So, Lavalette was then looked over at St. Elmo, Fort St. Elmo, and he drew in all of his people for just the defense of St. Michael and St. Angelo. And he's like, this is all I have. And he had to withstand the rest of the Ottoman army through the rest of their siege with just these two forts. And that is where we're going to leave you for part 2 of the Great Siege of Malta.
Damn.
Cliffhanger, baby.
Yeah.
Thank you again for listening. We are the History Boys. I am Christopher Whedon.
And I'm doing a new thing now. Tyler Armentrout, History Boy here, just wishing you guys happy listening, and we'll see you out there in I don't know, podcasting. You know, I really ran out of momentum.
Retreat,
there.
Tyler. Retreat.
I did too.
Yeah, I'm gonna retreat to fight another day. But, thanks for listening, folks.
I burned it all out at the opening with the fucking A&W restaurant.
Yeah, you and the Ottomans.
They also burned themselves out at the A&W restaurant. They love root beer.
Yeah, too many root beer floats.
Oh, no such thing.
I am Zach Meck, the raw sexual aggression of this TV show. And by TV show, I mean podcast show. Correct. And I am a History Boy.
Nice. And I, of course, am Jerry Nash, your History Boy. Thank you so much for listening. And we have a couple of things for you. What other, Zach?
Go check out the Patreon if you want to be part of our Discord server that we have. You can join for as small, as little as $1. You get access to the Discord and join us with the Beers for the Boys. $5 extra with the Discord, plus you also get a shout out.
And by the way, something I want to mention about Beers of the Boys, and really the whole Discord, really, it's a party, guys, because it really is. It's a party that you're really missing out on.
It's a party, baby. You're missing out.
Cool.
And I like to call it the Suds with the Buds.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's dope as shit. And at the $10 mark, you get all of the above plus access to the bonus content that we have, and that we will continue making. Nice. It's pretty fucking dope. It's lots of fun, especially when we do our sort of like live stream Patreon only Beers with the Boys events, because it's just getting fucked up with your friends virtually and, you know, talking history and being regular old history boys.
Yeah.
Please, if you can, check out all our social media, be it our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Please, give us a 5-star review. Those fucking help us out so goddamn much. Or you could be a coward and leave us a 1-star review and not say a goddamn word. You fucking coward.
Yeah, at least give us a review so we have some marketing material.
We don't mind if you hate us. Just let us know why.
Yeah, and so we can show everybody and mock you.
Yeah,
exactly. But no,
'Cause that's
seriously,
what we do.
5-star reviews would be so fucking dope. It's super helpful. It would be awesome. And lastly, if you could go and check out Cold Storage.
Yes.
So Cold Storage, spelled CZLDSTORAGE.
One
on
word.
Twitch, all one word. Every Saturdays they do a live stream event where they just play awesome fucking electronic music.
Yeah, fuck yeah, man. It's really good.
So if you're one of our many, many listeners who listen to History Boys day and date with release...
Day and night. They listen to us day and night.
They've never stopped.
Early evening on our release schedule... then you can dovetail smoothly right off of our show and right over to Cold Storage on Twitch and listen to some jams, man.
Jam out.
It's really dope.
It's really cool. It's really cool. Highly recommend. Highly recommend. We again are the History Boys. See you again for part 2 of the Siege of Malta. Zach, take it away.
Love you, bye.
We've had a lot of fun. We'll see you next time. Or I guess we won't, whatever.